That's not masculine. That's feminine.
That's your, no.
That's it. That's total. That's fake
can you tell me?
masculinity.
Okay.
This demonstration that you gave us for masculinity is
Hyper-masculinity.
It's not masculinity.
Okay.
And that's why those guys, some of those guys, do end up in bed with other men.
Z-Gambit.
Do women know that these women who are having sex before marriage and carrying on with different men and loving themselves, do they know that men don't want to marry a woman like that and have children with her?
There are different men out there who want different things. There are different women out there.
Good, decent wife and mother.
But I'm sure there's no man who wants a woman who's been out.
They'll do the sex stuff because the men are, really into sex, but they don't see that as the kind of woman that they would marry and have a family with.
Remember when we talked about false premise? What is another way that you can see that? It seems like you have the blinders on so that you only see that X times X is X. A woman may not be having intercourse because she thinks that's what a man wants.
Maybe that's what a man wants.
Maybe that's what she wants. Maybe she wants some penis. Maybe she wants a deep down body orgasm. Maybe that's what she wants. And maybe she wants that penis to get in there and give her the orgasm that she wants.
Clear. So first things first here, for men, they do not actually want to be with a woman that has been around the block with every other guy. At least if maybe one or two mostly is all right, but if a woman has been out there 20, 30, 40, with modern days, we have body counts of 50, 60 and all that, which is normal. But this woman says that it actually doesn't matter. There are some men that prefer that. Well, that's very few men. Most men prefer women that have not been on the block for a long time. So she talks about a lot of things, but let's continue watching and we're going to see where this conversation drags us, as it is an interesting subject to talk about here.
How did you become a relationship expert?
Ask, brother.
How did all that come? You walking down the road and you realize, these folks need some help. I'm going to give them help. How did you get into that?
I started making YouTube videos when YouTube was about 2 years old. I had a near-death experience the same year, and that's what actually led me onto YouTube. And I started making videos, and the videos that resonated most with people were the videos when I started talking about loving yourself.
Right.
And everything is relationship. The relationship that you have with yourself is mirrored in the relationship that you have with other people. And so when I started talking about self-love, it resonated with other people and it resonated with the masses. That's how I've been able to amass more than 300,000 social media followers.
Right.
This is how I get 1 million views a month.
Is there a difference between men and women?
Each person has a different ratio of masculine and feminine. I have a feminine side and a masculine side. You have a feminine side and a masculine side as well. So each person has variances of how the feminine and the masculine shows up in their life. The feminine is soothing and calming and nurturing and loving and healing. The masculine is constructive and building and protective, and there's a force to masculinity.
I agree with you that men do have that feminine side to them, but it's something that they should overcome. It's not something that they should hold on to. And the reason that they develop that feminine side is because of the relationship with their mothers. They get her identity for a while, but after a certain period of time, they should be turned over to the father so that they can watch and observe him and overcome the mama that's in them and become real men. And I've noticed that women hate men who hold on to their feminine side because it's like being with another woman and they want a man. Women can't help but be attracted to real men. They don't like weak men.
So you notice how she decides to dodge the question when he asks the question, are men and women the same? So she goes and says that both men and women have a dose of masculinity and femininity in that way. So in this case, whether you're a man or a woman, at least the levels are different. So the difference is only lies in the levels. So a woman could have a level of masculinity higher than femininity, and thereby she becomes a man in that case. So this is where the confusion comes in, if you look at it in that way. Whereas he stresses out that men are different, exactly, and mostly men are born with a high dose of masculinity and just a little bit of femininity, which is actually induced but from society, from their mothers, from their sisters as they grow in that situation. And it's one of the things that men have to fight against at a moment as they grow. Yes, masculinity on its own is actually not just bad, aggression and all that. There's affection in the masculinity, but people usually look at it as lacking affection, and femininity is what has affection. No, even masculinity has affection on its own. So even a man that has never seen a woman in his life will still be affectionate. Being fully masculine will be affectionate as well. So these are the things that we'll notice as we continue to watch this video. So let's continue watching the video and we'll talk things through as we continue.
Each human being needs the balance of masculine and feminine. When a father goes to hold his child, when a father goes to cook, when a father goes to prune a garden, when a father goes to create, that's the feminine side of him.
It's terrible too. It's so destructive.
I'm sorry,
see,
what is destructive?
For a man to be that way. See,
And
what you might not understand.
that could be part of your own brokenness, where you've decided that you don't even need affection.
Let me tell you this. What you probably don't understand is
affection is not feminine. Affection is human.
For a woman to be emotional like that, and for a while the child need that type of mother's love.
And we confuse affection for emotion.
Father's love,
two different things.
It's not of emotion. He is the spiritual head of his family. He brings the love in to his family, and he receives it from God. And that love is a light unto your feet. Because emotions are up and down. They're not good to have. So the father show his children how to overcome that. Do you agree with that?
Of course I don't, and you can see from my face that I'm
I know, I
revolted
see you. Why
by
are
that
you
thought.
rejecting it? Would you
I'm revolted by it.
Would you want to marry a feminine man?
I need a man who is balanced with
not.
his masculinity and his femininity.
So you want him to be feminine sometime and masculine sometime?
Not
Did
really,
you
I'm
know-
sure.
You don't look like a woman.
She doesn't
that would
answer any
want
questions.
A feminine man. I just don't. I'm not accepting that.
Did you know that a penis feels best when it
What?
is not rigidly hard, but in between hard and
What
not
has that
so
to
hard?
do
Did you
with
know
the
that?
whole
No, I didn't know
situation
that.
here?
Yes,
But what does that have to do with it?
when a man is too hard, he is unsuitable for a woman.
So it's very interesting. Huh? When she talks about these issues, she actually is trying to dodge a lot of questions in that she is confusing emotion with affection. Whereas affection, everyone is affectionate. Men and women are affectionate, but women are more emotional than men. And that's the nature of it all. And when it comes to emotion, it's not good when it comes to handling situations, because emotion does things without using logic, because emotion thinks in the present and what the repercussions are in the present. But logic thinks about the consequences as well, you see. And that is what he is trying to refer to. Well, as she is just trying to dodge some questions here and not actually answering any of these questions. And then she shifts to other things about sexual issues. She was talking more about sexual issues, as you'll notice here, and which was driving away from the subject itself. But let's continue watching. Let me not, bore you with the words that I'm adding on, but let's continue watching to finish the video.
Amazing. So
a man has to be pliant. The men who are not able to calm down their masculinity, who are not able to damper or temper their masculinity, those are the men who end up with other men. A man who wants to be with a woman has to soften himself and make himself pliable enough for a woman to be with.
he doesn't have to do that, but in his weakness, he thinks he does, because he doesn't understand that masculinity draws women unto them. They don't have to weaken themselves like that. But you're right, men do fall from their masculinity in order to seduce a woman, because they don't know what the power of masculinity.
People are of the false impression that it's the feminine men who, those are the ones who are gay. No, it's the ones who are like, rah rah, I'll never soften myself.
So these are not gay, but the rigid guys are the ones that are gay.
End up with
Very
other
interesting.
men,
So
because
not
they
true.
can all be masculine together and roll around, punching and grappling each other.
Do you think that's what masculinity is?
Again, she mentioned something that's interesting here. that the lisp and the feminine type of men are not more likely to be gay, but the ones that are masculine are the ones that are likely to be gay, which I do not agree with. I know there are some studies that are being made here, but they are being done by people who have done PhDs, and people who do PhDs are just normal human beings, calling themselves scientists. They just come up with things. They don't actually even study these days. They just do these things, and they do prove this information just to get the agenda going. You take a feminist to do a study, the study will definitely come out supporting feminism for sure. So that's about the studies these days. So a masculine man cannot be gay. Being masculine himself actually makes him less gay, I can say. And I don't know how they look at it, but a feminine man will start to look for a masculine man, and thereby by being gay. Mostly we find these men who look very soft are the ones that are gay. So what is she talking about in this case? And she's always confusing affection and emotion, because once you meet a woman, as a man, you get to grow more affectionate, and that does not make you emotional. The moment you start to get emotional, there becomes a problem now, and there lies your problem, because you start to do things in a way that are not supposed to be done. So let's finish the video here, and we'll talk a little bit after the video.
That is hypermasculinity.
What's
yes.
your definition of masculinity?
I gave a definition of the masculine and the feminine earlier.
Well, let me tell you what it is.
Oh, you're going to tell me what your definition of it is?
No, I'm going to tell you
or
exactly.
the definition?
I'm going to tell you the definition.
Where are you getting this definition from, Jesse?
You hear it in my definition. A masculinity is a male who loves God with all his heart, soul, and might, along with nothing else, and his neighbor as himself, meaning that his love, his identity is coming from God through him onto his wife and to his children. Masculinity is not something that you have to put any effort in being. It is natural to be that way once you get to the point where you start to love what's right more than anything else. And it's that power and love that draws the woman unto him. That woman becomes his wife, and he treats her in the way that his Father God is treating him, with love.
Okay.
Isn't that beautiful? Now, I know you like that,
we
right?
all have different definitions of beauty.
But did you like that definition? See,
I
you thought
personally
masculinity
didn't.
was agile and being
That's
tough.
what the masculine is.
That's not masculine. That's feminine.
That's your, no.
That's it. That's total. That's fake
can you tell me?
masculinity.
Okay.
This demonstration that you gave us for masculinity is
hypermasculinity.
It's not masculinity.
Okay.
And that's why some of those guys do end up in bed with other men. Do you believe there is a wrong and a right?
I believe that there are things that are in
Why
alignment
isn't she answering any of the questions that are being asked?
We choose to be.
So is there a right and wrong?
I think right and wrong
exist.
are judgments that different people have based on who it is that they are, what it is that they've taught, and what it is that they want to project. I think that there are things that I think there's a person that we want to be, and I think that there's a way that we want to show up in life. And I think that there are things that will help us get there and things that will not.
Well, she has a degree in dodging questions. She's being asked whether right and wrong exist, and she keeps on mumbling about other things that are not actually the case. So she talks about many things that have no backing, and I don't know why this term actually became something that's very prominent. The issue of hyper masculinity or toxic masculinity, what is that? What is that? It's the same thing. There's no form of femininity which is toxic. There's no toxic femininity. It's not heard of every day. But we talk here about masculinity, and that's because of feminism. Feminism trying to degrade the man and trying to emasculate the men, in that now they're becoming more feminine, and because any masculine man is seen as a threat these days because of what is being preached outside, which is not the case. A masculine man should be masculine, and it should be that like that. So now let's finish the video one last time now.
Are you a real you like sex a lot or something? You're really into sex?
Where's this question coming from?
Because
That question was uncalled for.
I said this is a question that was
I wanted to ask you a question.
So now you're curious about sex, and you're
No,
curious about
you.
me and what it is that I'm doing sexually?
Later, she's
No,
been
are
talking
you
about
really into
sexual
that?
questions. She's
Having
been
sex?
referring to sexual
I think
things,
that
and she
each
is
person should be
uncomfortable the
able
moment
to
he brings it up.
explore what it is that brings them joy.
Are you doing a lot of exploring?
Excuse me?
Are you doing a lot of exploring?
I think that what it is that I'm doing personally with my vagina is between me, my vagina, and anyone who consents, and I consent to be with me and my vagina. If you want to talk about self-love, let's talk about self-love. If you want to talk about loving yourself and things that have to do with that, but when you start putting my vagina on trial, asking me who's going in my vagina and whether or not I got a lot going in on my vagina, you start to cross the line,
Why
sir.
did I ask about that? I was just asking if you really into sex.
Well, she was talking about sexual references a lot, and the moment he brings it up, it becomes an issue. But either way, still uncalled for. He wasn't supposed to actually even get there and ask that question. I'm sure it was leading to another question that was based on that. And you know how Jesse is. That's how he rolls, actually. That's how he rolls. Exactly. But anyway, let me know what you think about this conversation. Do you think men are supposed to be feminine and women are supposed to be a little bit masculine in that way, or masculinity is just masculinity and femininity is femininity in that way? And let me know what you think about the whole conversation in this case. Kindly do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And the more you do this, the more we get recommended. And help a brother out by doing that until we get blowing up and we become famous. So thank you very much for watching. This is Maxwell with Z Gambit, and I wish you a wonderful day, afternoon, and evening. Bye.